In this video, I'm going to talk about how I went from disorganized with no plan to building systems that made my goals inevitable, all while enjoying the process in 120 days and using the high performance elite framework. And before I begin this video, I want to just preface it by saying if you cannot sit through this entire video, this video is not for you. I'm going to be providing a lot of value, no fluff, straight to the point on these systems that transform my life. So let's get right into it. So before I implemented this system, I really didn't have a clear sense of direction towards my goals, and I aimlessly wandered throughout my life without a purpose. I was not proud of the progress that was being made, nor the life that I was building. I actually had no clue whether I was actually making progress with my goals, or was I just trying to guess my way to success. And that's a very annoying cycle to be in, just because you feel like you're making progress, but then you look back and you realize and you haven't made much progress at all. And finally, I was wasting precious time that I could never get back, and I feared that my life was destined for mediocrity. One of the worst things I always say is that if you lose $10, you can get back another $10 bill. But if you waste time, 10 hours, 10 days, 10 weeks, this is time out of your life that you will never get back. So after I implemented this system, I knew my purpose and I created a clear plan to make my goals inevitable. I experienced real progress in all the areas that I once hated about myself. I fell in love with the process of becoming the best version of myself, and the inputs actually felt rewarding. And this is one of the best things that you can do. When you get to that point where you feel like the inputs are rewarding, you get excited to work towards your goals every single day. And to me, that's when you truly know you've accomplished success. And then finally, I was able to clearly describe the person that I was going to be, and I had the evidence to back it up. And in this video, I'm going to show you how. So let's get right into it. But before we begin, I want to preface this by just saying, who is this video for? So if you're looking to create effective systems and to level up your physical aesthetics and be proud of what you see in the mirror, this is for you. If you need to create structure to get more done in your life while still enjoying the process of becoming the best version of yourself, this is for you. If you are tired of watching yourself fall back into the same cycle of poor habits, limiting beliefs, and constant self-doubt, this is for you. And if you need guidance on knowing the highest leverage task to assist you in making your goals inevitable, this is for you. And if you're ready to stop being a passive consumer and start being an active player in your own life and invest in your future, this is for you. And again, like I said before, who is this video not for? If you are not willing to do the work required to follow the systems, again, this video isn't for you. If you do not have a burning desire to change and level up in every single area of your life, this is not for you. If you're not willing to make a tiny investment within yourself for lifelong changes to transform your life, this is not for you. And if you're not willing to step outside your comfort zone and grow into the best version of yourself, this video is not for you. If you're not willing to kill all limiting beliefs, yes, all limiting beliefs, and reconstruct your identity that's built for success, this is not for you. And if any of these fit you, just do yourself and save yourself some time and just click off this video. If you're still with me, let's get right into the juicy part of this video. So here's the truth about reconstructing your identity and stepping into that best version of yourself that nobody tells you. You see, most people think that massive changes only happen to others, or that they need to wait decades to see some results. And sadly, most people never understood that becoming a high performer, because they just don't really understand these three key things. Number one, the highest leverage task to achieve and to make failure inevitable. If you can identify the most important drivers of your success, the things that you need to do on a consistent basis to ensure that you become successful in your own way, this will guarantee your success. How to actually create systems around tracking your progress so that you're no longer guessing. This is one of the biggest flaws that a lot of people come into. They're guessing their way to success. They don't know if they're actually making progress. I call them busybodies, doing a lot of work, but they have no actual evidence if that's actually making real progress. And then finally, how to actively believe in themselves and in their large visions. Now, this should be number one, because I always say within my videos, make sure to always believe that you will achieve. Belief is the foundation, because the moment you start to believe it is possible, you'll take the actions that will follow pursuit and then become the best version of yourself. But we'll talk about this in this video. I'll show you exactly what I did to make that a reality. So don't worry, I'm not going to let that happen to you. And I truly believe that there is no such thing as giving something for nothing. So if you follow the blueprints that I'm going to be outlining in this video, I truly believe that there is no reason why you can't do this too. And again, if you are watching this video right now, spending your time with me, I am extremely confident that you have what it takes to become a high performer and excel in all areas of your life. Like, you could be watching any sort of video right now, but you're still here because you know that you're capable of this. So let's get into it. And if you want to be a high performer that wins in all areas of their life, I'll show you exactly how to follow a training protocol that meets your fitness goals and helps you build an aesthetic body while being able to manage your schedule, because let's face it, we are all extremely busy, especially as high performers. How to track your goals and monitor your progress so that you are no longer guessing your way to success. Again, very key, and I'm going to break this down. How to rewire your brain to fall in love with the process and create unshakable belief systems to make your wildest dreams seem possible. Like, you know that little voice in your head? I'm going to show you how you can train that for infinite success. And then finally, I will teach you how to optimize your schedule so that you can do more in less time and achieve your goals faster than you think possible. Let's get right into it. But before we begin, in case you just didn't know me, here's a quick backstory on how I got here. So since I was at the age of 15, I knew I was meant for a big life. I've always envisioned creating success and I wanted to do something massive with my life. But I was actually going through a very difficult period during my journey. So this is just around the time where I'm in high school and I'm realizing that the friends that, I was really around didn't really like me. And I'm going to break down a story that's near and dear to my heart. So basically, in a nutshell, I was a part of this friend group in high school. And at this time, I thought these guys were my boys. We were going to be boys for life, doing everything together. And then one day I was on Snapchat and I would always see like this same exact group of friends hanging out on these random days. One day they would go out to the mall, one day they would go to some event. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird because I'm in the group chat with all the boys. Like, how come I never got a notification about this one event? Because I would have loved to come out. It turns out after I did some digging, I found out that this friend group that I was a part of actually created a separate group chat with me not in it. And they basically excluded me from all the events. And being 15 at the time, navigating through high school, trying to figure out and find myself, because that was extremely difficult for me. I'm going to be completely honest. And it hurt me a lot because I still didn't understand why they did that. And I remember even asking them and they were just like, kind of like laughing it off and pushing it to the side. And I was super grateful for that moment because it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about the systems and leverages that I'm going to show with you in this video. But another thing that I was also battling was I really didn't like my body and I despised feeling so weak. So as you see in this photo right there, you can see that I was very skinny and, growing up, playing sports, I was always relatively good at sports. But when you're a young man trying to grow up, you just don't want to be skinny. You don't feel powerful. You actually feel weak. I had people calling me noodle arms, spaghetti straps. The list goes on and on and on. Another thing is being insecure about your body. I didn't really have concrete plans for my future. Like I said before, I was ultimately just guessing my way to success. And most importantly, which sucked, is I was wasting time on things that truly didn't matter. So going back to Snapchat, I used to send these Snapchat streaks, which is essentially where you would message someone every single day consistently back and forth. I had streaks with people going upwards of 700 days. That's 700 days every day, logging into social media, talking to friends, and looking back at it, that was a complete waste of time. I lacked real confidence to go after the life that I truly wanted. I was really hiding my identity because I was afraid of how other people would perceive me. And then finally, I thought I didn't really have any control over my life and I was just destined to accept my circumstances. I couldn't really change anything about it. So the High Performers Elite Framework is a robust system that I built through years of trial and error, research on books, and making sure that success is not only achievable, but enjoyable as well. I'm really excited to break down this video because this is all the distilled knowledge and the systems that I use on a day-to-day basis to win consistently. In the following system, I will outline the entire process, A to Z, from what I did to accomplish these results. So you too can use the High Performance Elite Framework to take control over your life and your destiny and to make success inevitable across multiple domains in your life. Because I'm a big believer that we don't just want to be as a high performer successful in one particular area. We want to maximize all areas. And we're going to talk about this in this video. Let's get right into it. So here's the step-by-step strategy I use to really transform my life. And I'm going to break down these pillars. So we have the identity reconstruction. So how I learned to reform my identity. And I'm going to show you the exact steps that I did to completely rewire my brain on how I viewed myself, which again, I told you that this will lead into the actions that will follow. The aesthetic architect. And this is where I'm going to be showing you the transformations I made from a physical aesthetics perspective that really transformed my life as well. Systems design. So one thing about me, I love systems. I nerd about systems all the time. And I'm going to show you the exact systems that I use on a consistent basis to really achieve what I would like to call infinite success. And then finally, accountability mastery, something very important and something that people often neglect because a lot of people want to become successful. They'll start the right habits, but then they don't have no accountability. And then what happens is they typically fall off their goals. So I'm going to show you how I leverage accountability to stay consistent over a long period of time so that my goals can become inevitable. All right, so this is chapter 1, the identity reconstruction. And this is the step-by-step strategy I used to reconstruct my identity. So I learned which identity I was carrying within the world and how it was holding me back. And I reconstructed my identity into the person that I wanted to become. And I used my story as infinite motivation and reinforced it daily until my actions followed. So if you look on the far left here, this is a photo of me when I was just about graduating high school and I had to navigate what was next in my journey, where I want to go spend the next time of my education. And to be honest, I had no clue. I was completely lost. I was battling between whether I was going to go across the country to play and pursue an athletic scholarship. Do I stay in my country and pursue this more robust career? and I was lost. I had no framework to really like base it off of. The next photo that you can see right in the middle was actually during my first year of university. And a lot of people don't know this, but I struggled tremendously throughout my first year of university. I was away from home for the very first time. I was living on my own completely. I was surrounded by people who I didn't really feel like I was connecting with on a deeper level. And on top of that, I just felt lost. Like, I was struggling a lot. A lot of people on the exterior saw me as this person who had everything together, who was super disciplined, but that couldn't have been farther from the case. I was struggling a lot academically. I was struggling socially. My sleep schedule was completely ruined. I remember I was going to bed at like 12, waking up at 3, 4 a.m. It was a mess. I was a mess. But fast forward to the other photo, that's actually a billboard at my university. So in my later years at the school, my school's very entrepreneurial, and they were recognizing me as being part of the entrepreneurial community, where they had these billboards promoting Entrepreneurship Week, which is a big deal at my school. A lot of very successful entrepreneurial alumni came from my school. And being recognized that from going from the student who was completely unconfident, had no direction, had no structure, to then winning awards, being recognized, being a part of amazing programs and so much more, it all came from the reconstruction of my identity. So let's start with the success duplication. So I learned how to study high leverage books, and I rewired that voice in my head to help me achieve my goals. So I no longer read books. I've read a ton of different books, over 100 plus in counting, and I read every single day, but I don't read books anymore. I actually study them, and I'm going to show you the difference between reading a book and studying a book. But you know that little voice inside your head? Sometimes that voice is filled with self-doubt, telling you that you can't do certain things, or sometimes that voice is encouraging you to become the best version of yourself. I use and learned how to use books to rewire that voice in my head that's constantly encouraging me to do excellence, constantly encouraging me to strive to become the best version of myself. And this has completely transformed the game for me, because now when I'm doing a difficult task, I'm learning how to push myself, and it all came from studying these books. So let me show you how I studied them. So number one, studying books looks completely different from just reading books like most people do. It involves, number one, highlighting the pages. So as you're reading a book and you come across something informational or that's really important, you want to highlight that. So whether you're reading a physical book, I actually take a highlighter and physically highlight it. Or what you can also do is, if you're reading a digital copy, there's also apps that allow you to highlight as well. But I do that because highlighting the pages is allowing that information that I'm really trying to extract from the book. The next thing is I create action items. So within each chapter that I'm highlighting from the book, I create action items, right? You can read all the books in the world, or you can study all the books in the world. It means nothing if you don't actually apply the action items required. So that means, what are you going to do within your life to actually change? What actions are you going to take? And that's part of the action items. The other thing is personal reflections. So I find when books are extremely powerful, when you can relate what the book is talking about to your own life and your own circumstances. It allows you to get more clarity about what's going on within your life. And also it gives you more confidence on how to navigate future situations. And then finally, I consistently review these notes. So it's not just enough to just highlight the pages. It's not just enough to actually just write down those notes and actually store them. I use Notion to store my notes. You also create these action items, you follow up with some personal reflections, and then you want to consistently review these notes. So I can go back to books that I read months ago, and I can review those notes and understand, okay, this is the lesson I took away. This is how I can constantly rewire that voice in my head and remind myself of the key lessons I got from the books. Next is the 10-year video. Now, I haven't seen too many people talk about this exercise, but I was first inspired by this exercise via Mr. Beast. So if you don't know, Mr. Beast is one of the biggest YouTubers on this platform at the time of this recording. And one of the things he did was, when he was starting out his journey, he created a 10-year video. And in that 10-year video, it was a list of promises that he's going to make to the future version of himself 10 years from now. So I actually was super inspired, because in that video, he was like, well, I hope I get 1 million subscribers. Turns out he becomes the biggest channel in the world. You know, he's like, I hope I get married. He ends up being married. I hope I become this successful person. He is very successful in my eyes. So I went ahead and created my own version of a 10-year video. And this exercise was extremely powerful. So these are promises that I made to the future version of myself. This is something that I constantly rewatch all the time. I have a list of action items that I'm planning to achieve 10 years from now. And what that has allowed me to do is it has allowed me to step into the identity of this person who I'm becoming. So I made these future promises to myself. Now my identity is following. This is why it's called identity reconstruction. So I'm reforming my mind on how my identity is stepping into the next version of myself, the best version of myself. And the best part about this is a constant reminder if I'm living in alignment or disalignment with my goals. I have a North Star and I have a vision for where I want to go with my life. And when I watch this video, I ask myself critically, are the actions I'm taking today bringing me closer to this person that I'm trying to aim for? And what gives me a lot of confidence and clarity with my direction and my path is it actually is. All the actions that I'm doing today are making the future version of myself 10 years from now proud. So I really encourage you guys to give this a try. So the next thing is journaling. And when it comes to journaling, I truly believe that I am one of the best at this. I've been doing this for over a decade. I love journaling, and I've narrowed it down on how to be very effective in how you journal to really get the best results out of your identity reconstruction. So let's start off with the visualization reflection. So when I was in university and I was struggling, one of the things that actually got me out of this rut was writing visualizations to the future version of myself as a student. I would write, I am so grateful and blessed that I'm receiving 90 plus averages in all my courses. I am so grateful and blessed that I got 100% on this exam. I am so grateful and blessed that I'm receiving scholarships and amazing opportunities within my school community. I was writing all these things down even when my life was going in a complete disaster. Because what I was doing was I was reforming my subconscious mind to act in a way of how this student would be, a high-performing student. And this transpired into my life today. I continuously do this exercise. Visualize the life that you want and write to the future version of yourself who already accomplished this. This is a very powerful exercise because neuroscience teaches us that our subconscious mind cannot differentiate between the actual real, what's actually going on versus what's going on within your mind. So when you can use that as leverage, it's a very powerful tool and something I consistently do on a day-to-day basis. Another thing that I do is actually a reflection on the wins and areas of development within my life. So we are not perfect beings. Well, I am not a perfect being. I believe you watching this video, you're not a perfect being. We're imperfect beings. And one of the things that I've done is I've learned to actually really analyze and be proud of myself for the wins I have in my life. So whenever I create success, because this is going to form the confidence that you need to continuously go after your goals. But I don't let my ego get too big and think I'm just this all perfect person. Rather, I actually look at my life and say, where can I improve? What are my areas of development? How can I become a better individual? And this has been a very humbling but rewarding process because I realize that although I'm achieving great things and I'm on a good trajectory, there's so much more I can do, so many more areas where I can grow and develop. And I do this all through documenting it right in my journal. And last but not least, this ties in perfectly with the identity reconstruction. All these exercises in my journal, from visualization to the reflections, is really reconstructing my identity. It's reconstructing how I see myself. It's reconstructing how I walk into spaces and ultimately giving me the confidence to perform at my best self. And last but not least, we have the daily promises. So this is promises to the future version of me. This is something that I do on a consistent basis. I write out who I'm trying to strive to become. What am I working towards? And at the same time, I review this on a consistent basis. What are the goals and standards that I have for my life? And then what I do is I reverse engineer and build myself into that person who I want to be. And this has been a very rewarding process because all the work that I'm doing today isn't for miles of today. I'm planting the seeds today so that 10 years from now, we can reap the rewards and benefits. And the same thing should be for you. The actions that we take today will compound later on, and you will see the fruits of your labor, whether you were working hard or not. And the daily promises are a constant reminder to ensure that I'm on that path. And I really love this process because it's a constant self-reminder and self-reflection of what I'm working towards, why I spend so many hours on my craft, why I'm constantly looking to self-improve. And this is ultimately what I do for the identity reconstruction. Now let's jump into the next chapter, chapter 2, the aesthetic architect. And this is a very important pillar, so I hope you're paying attention. I learned how resilient the human body was, and I created a fail-proof plan to achieve my dream aesthetic physique while still eating the foods that I love. And then I learned the most optimal training techniques to really be very efficient in the gym, but really create a more stronger and more visible muscle mass within my aesthetics. So if you can see here, you can see, like I said, the progression where I am very, very skinny and very, very lean. And over time, through trial and error, I'm learning how to be more effective within the gym. Again, in that photo right in the middle, I wasn't confident with what I was seeing. I didn't like how I was really fitting into my clothes. But long and behold, this is a more recent picture of me really developing and stepping into my physique. And the best part about this is I know I have so much more progress to make with my physique, but I finally have the systems and the techniques to allow these results to come much more efficient, much more faster, and overall really just make me enjoy the process that much more. Because when we see progress in our life, the gym becomes very addicting. So I'm going to break it down for you. Let's get into it. So the fitness blueprint that I currently use. Currently, I am training 5 times a week and I'm targeting essential muscle groups. I'm a huge believer in functionality, overall aesthetics, and most importantly, overall health. So I followed a robust system of prioritizing proper form and progressive overload. And what that means is I'm not trying to ego lift my way in the gym or optimizing for form so that prevents any injuries, but at the same time, learning how to progressively overload the weight so that I'm increasing muscle mass and I'm getting stronger in the process. One of the things I use, and this has been a complete game changer for me, is actually the weight tracker. So I've identified my target weight and then I work backwards to track my progress. So as you can see here on this graph, the blue line indicates what my target weight is. And every single week I weigh myself to see how close I am to reaching that goal. And this has been a very rewarding process because again, I'm no longer guessing my way to success. I'm actually tracking myself so I can see the progress being made over time. And this process has been very rewarding because you're seeing yourself over time make these consistent changes that you were hoping to achieve. So the other thing is macronutrients. So I used apps to track my macronutrients to ensure that I met my daily caloric and protein goals. So again, I'm in a current state where I'm trying to increase the amount of volume, increase the amount of muscle mass, increase the amount of weight. So I have to hit a certain caloric target in order for my muscle masses to grow. And at the same time, I have specific protein goals that I have to hit every single day because if you guys know the science behind protein, within proteins are actually amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks that allow your muscles to form. So these are essential food groups, and all that's done via using apps. It's very efficient. And it's another way that I track my way to success instead of just guessing what I ate. Another thing that I implement, and I really love this, is efficient training. So I'm someone that does not want to be in the gym for 3+ hours. And as a high performer with a lot of different priorities, you don't want to be in the gym for that long either. So this is how I get way more done in my workouts in less time. Number one, I superset my exercises. So what that means is once I do a particular exercise, let's say bicep curl, I will immediately jump into another exercise, let's say a barbell curl, and count that as one set. And I do that over and over again. And that's been a way to really get more out of my workouts, but do it in a much more efficient way. I know it sounds crazy, but once you give it a try, you'll know exactly what I mean. Another thing that I've implemented was timed rest breaks. Now, this is essential. When I'm at the gym, I'm completely focused. But one of the ways I stay so focused is I time my rest breaks. So in between my sets, I'm doing anywhere between 90 seconds to all the way to 2 minutes on my rest breaks. And this has been essential on my own training progress because this has allowed me to be very efficient, not waste time, but get the most out of my training. Another thing is health optimization. So some of you may or may not know, but I am a complete nerd when it comes to becoming the best version of yourself, and especially from a health optimization lens. So one of the things about me is I am a functional athlete. And what that means is I'm not just the athlete that lifts heavy weights or can go on a long run, but functional means you can do all these things. I can run 10Ks and very competitive times. I can lift heavy weights and then progressively overload. At the same time, I do things like yoga and stretching and cardio just to ensure that my body is functional. I am a functional athlete because we don't want to be the types of people who are extremely strong, but we can't walk up a flight of stairs without losing our breath. Or you don't want to be the person with perfect cardiovascular health that can't even lift 10 pounds. And one of the things I haven't mentioned was my degree was really rooted in health optimizations. I did a medical science degree where I learned a lot of the physical ailments, a lot of the transformations that your body goes from the physiology to the anatomy and so much more. So I love this. I live it, I breathe it, and I continuously study it to learn how to become the best, most healthiest versions of ourselves because I truly believe that health is wealth. Finally, I want to talk about the aesthetics guide. So this is a very important thing. I learned really which muscle groups were essential for my optimal physical attractiveness. Now, a lot of people think when you're talking about attractiveness, you're being very vain, and this is a very vanity process. But I've made videos about this topic before. We're not doing this for vanity, but what we are doing is we understand that in this world, unfortunately or fortunately, people treat you differently based on how you look. So why not show up as the best high-performing version of yourself from an aesthetics perspective as well? So I really reconstructed my face and aesthetics to become more attractive, and you can really see on the image to the far left, like this is when I was struggling with a ton of different breakouts. My skin was constantly breaking out, especially within the heat. And I didn't matter what I did, it felt like nothing was working. Then you can see the next photo over, my skin got a little bit better, but my face structure was actually a little bit uneven. Then transition to now, you can see right down in the middle that my face is very symmetrical, which is a form of being very attractive in scientific research. On top of that, a lot of the skincare and fine bumps that I had before are all gone, and my skin is continuously doing a lot better. And this has been a very, very rewarding process. But how was this actually achieved? It was done through the gym, proper macronutrients, so eating whole and clean foods, drinking lots of water, leveraging different tools like the sauna and cardio, and ultimately all of these compound into transforming your physical aesthetics. And this is what worked very well for me. So chapter number 3 was system design. And this is something I also nerd out about a lot. I love systems because if you can create systems within your life, this will make ultimately tracking and success a lot more fun and enjoyable. So let me show you exactly how I did this. So let's start off with system design. And really what I did here was I learned how to audit how I spent my time and gamify my success by tracking my weekly and monthly win rate and the high leverage tasks that were associated with these things. So as you can see here, I've been doing this. I actively practice what I preach. I'm not just making these videos. So for the past 8 weeks, I've had 100% completion on the highest leverage task that I have to do on a consistent basis to stay consistent. And that's everything from reading pages. That means drinking my gallon of water. This means hitting my macronutrient goals. This means training. This means showing up and posting content, and so much more. And this has been a very rewarding process because I'm gamifying it. I'm turning it into a game. One of my favorite personal games is Grand Theft Auto, which also stands for GTA. And it's basically this open world simulator. If you haven't played it already, it's a lot of fun. But what I've realized is you can gamify your life the same exact way. So I don't actually spend time playing video games for multiple hours. Instead, I'm so focused on building my own life and gamifying the process as well, which makes it very enjoyable for myself. Another thing is habit pattern breaking. So I learned the science of building and breaking habits. And really, James Clear talked about this in his book called The Atomic Habits, that there's 4 stages of a habit. So you have the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. And one of the bad habits that I really suffered with was my social media addiction. I noticed within myself between the hours of 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. after I ate a large meal, I was constantly just love to doom scroll, spend hours on YouTube, spend hours on other social media apps, and I was wasting a lot of time and it wasn't really effective towards my goals. So what I did is I learned this habit breaking cycle and I learned how to break this habit. So in this example, the cue that really triggered this initial habit of doom scrolling on social media for me was after I ate a large meal because my body was going through a parasympathetic state, which is like the rest and digest feeling that you typically get, or some people call this the food coma. And my body was very relaxed. So the craving in this case was I want to grab my phone and I want to scroll. I was craving that cheap dopamine. The response was me picking up my phone, watching countless YouTube videos, me scrolling on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, etc. And then finally the reward, and this really wasn't a reward, was I was just wasting time on getting cheap dopamine and really not building my life in the direction that I wanted to build it in. But what I did through habit pattern breaking was I learned how to actually break up this pattern and break up the destruction cycle of this pattern. And basically what that means is, I have to eat. So I would eat my meal, but then after my meal, I wouldn't allow my phone to be near me so I can grab it and continuously scroll on for hours on end. So I was breaking up the disruption of this pattern. I was breaking up the cue. I was breaking up my response to the craving. And overall, this allowed me to break this habit, which is something I no longer do. Another thing that I did was a weekly win rate and my MITs, which were essentially my non-negotiable tasks. So like I mentioned before, I identified the most important task, my MITs, that I had to complete every single day to really win the day. And what that meant was I was tracking my success rate daily. So as you can see here in the image, you can see some of the inputs that I have to do. I input all my results into Notion. I created this really effective template. And then from there, after I hit my goals, you can see it go green because that means, okay, I'm on target. I'm hitting it. And the best part about this is I'm able to really just track the results that I'm making on a consistent basis. Finally, what I did was I learned to increase my output as time went on. So I'm a big believer, and my mentor actually talks about this as well, which I'll get back into, is learning how to standardize before you optimize. So essentially what this means is instead of just jumping into the big goals and saying you want to do all these things, learning how to work small in small increments so you can build the confidence. And over time, like I showed you guys, I've been on an 8-week straight winning streak of my successfully win rate, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So the next thing I implemented was the time management audit. Now this is essential, and not many people talk about this, but I'm going to show you exactly what I did. So I had to learn how I was really spending and wasting my time because we all get the same 24 hours within a day. And basically what I did was I tracked every single 30 minutes of my time within a 30-minute interval for an entire week. And this was a very tedious process. It wasn't always fun. I would set a timer, and every 30 minutes a timer would go off, and that would mean I would have to meticulously write in, what I did during that 30-minute interval. But what that did was it gave me clarity about how I was actually spending my time. Where was I wasting my time? How was I not being as efficient as I could be? And that data really helped give me clarity. So now when I'm spending my time, especially in 30-minute intervals, I'm very intentional about how I'm spending it because I've already tracked it and audited my time from the previous time management audit. And I really encourage you to do it as well. Like, it's not easy, but very rewarding, especially if you know how to properly assess your time management audit. And then finally, I built an optimal schedule. So I learned to use things like Google Calendar to really prioritize my non-negotiables, the things I had to get done. And I tracked what I did daily, and I removed the guesswork, because if I were to ask you, hey, like, what did you do on March 12th of this year? Most people wouldn't really be able to recall what they did. Like, they have no clue. I'm like, I don't know what I did on March 12th. But for me personally, using my Google Calendar, I have an exact step-by-step framework of what exactly I did. And this allows me to stay organized and on top of my priorities. And then finally, I learned how to be flexible with my schedule and my commitments, because life does happen. Random things will pop up. Like just recently, I was having car issues. I had to go to the mechanic to get a new motor. Not long ago, one of my windshields cracked. and so many other things that we sometimes can't always control. But being able to be flexible with your schedule will allow you to actually get things done while tracking it on your optimal schedule as well. And then finally, one of the most important chapters is the accountability mastery. I'm going to break down why this is essential. And this is a step that so many people miss. So if you're still with me, I'm going to give you a ton of value. So the accountability mastery, I learned how to leverage accountability so I was no longer lying to myself, but instead I knew exactly where I was flawed. I created systems for urgency and really allowed me to go after my dream life today. So when I talk about accountability, a lot of people can be accountable for things like school or showing up for their job. But when it comes to working on themselves, working on their own goals and visions, they typically struggle with these things. And I'm going to break down exactly why. What happens here is when it comes to your school or your job, you typically have people holding you accountable. So it's really hard to upset them. For example, if you don't hand in that school assignment, you know that there's consequences associated with it. Or if you show up to your job late, or if you don't show up at all, you also know that there's consequences. You may not get paid, you might be on probation, etc., etc. But the issue that a lot of people face when it comes to their goals is they don't hold themselves accountable because there's really no consequences. If you tell yourself that you're going to wake up early and then you wake up 2 hours later, you're like, who cares? Like, no, I'm not going to get in trouble for it. I can just do it again tomorrow. But that's a big flaw that so many people make, because what happens is you actually start to erode your internal confidence. So when you tell yourself you're going to work on this project and you actually push it off for the next day and you just don't do anything about it, your own internal confidence gets eroded over time. And confidence is very important, especially the confidence within yourself. So we don't want to erode this process. So I'm going to show you what I did. One of them being accountability meetings. So I learned to really have somebody who can hold me accountable and leverage high performing accountability meetings to make sure I was on track with my goals. But let's break it down a little bit more. I also learned how to hold myself accountable with my financial discipline. So here's an actual photo at one point in time within my bank balance. And this sucked, being a young man, having $0 in your bank account. But I became very meticulous and methodical about how I was tracking and my savings, all the income that was coming in, all the income that was coming out. And as a result, I created a very high performing expense tracker for myself that was very efficient, where it records the exact date. It records the exact purchase of what you made. It also records the categories, so you knew what category this fell into. So I have categories for health, travel, content creation, education, etc. And then finally, I wrote down how much this price actually cost. And then I wrote down the notes associated with it. So how was I feeling? Is this something that I needed to buy, or was this just a random impulsive purchase? And what I've realized with implementing this system is I actually learned how to cut out completely all my impulsive purchases. No longer am I just buying things because I think I need them, because I know that I'm going to have to hold myself accountable and revisit it on my financial tracker to really assess, okay, how am I spending my money? What were the emotions associated with it? And the best part about this is it gives me a beautiful breakdown of where a lot of my money is going, how much money is coming in, how much money I'm spending, how much money we're putting away for savings, etc., etc. And then this is another way where I gamify the process, making it really enjoyable for myself, but also being financially disciplined, which is a very essential skill for especially all my high performers. So the high performers framework was designed to help you become the best version of yourself, right? From rewiring your identity so that you believe that you were destined for success. From the aesthetic archetype to allow you to step into your desired physical aesthetic. From the systems design to allow you to create real systems like I showed you to track your progress. From the accountability mastery, so having someone actually hold you accountable and holding yourself accountable through all the systems that I just shared with you. And then finally, leveling up and building real discipline across your wealth, health, learning, and purpose. And now that you understand everything that I just laid out for you, all the systems that I shared and how this process works, I have a very special offer for you. So if you are ready to transform your life into foundational pillars, if you're sick of relying on old systems that no longer serve you, if you're ready to rely on real systems instead of guessing your way to success, and if you're ready to commit to becoming the best version of yourself and living your best life, if you're ready to actually invest in yourself and stop being a consumer, but start being a producer, because we know that producers run this world. And finally, if you're ready to become the person that you knew that you were capable of, the person who had all those big dreams, those big goals, and those big desires. And if that's you, then let's leverage the high performing systems that make success inevitable and transform into our highest performing self, all in just 120 days. Now, if this interests you, I have a link in my description and pinned in the first comment section for you to book a call, and we can see if you're a good fit for this program. Because listen, if you watch this entire video through, I'm very confident that this program is designed and meant for you. I'm very confident in my product because I know it works, and ultimately I'm confident that you are a high performer. And you know what I always say, make sure to always believe that you will achieve. Let's go. Woo!